Hi, this is Ned Siegfried from Siegfried and Jensen. As proud sponsors of BeliefCast, we hope you are inspired by Todd's weekly podcasts, which contain so many courageous stories of recovery and personal growth. Remember, it's not what happened in the past that matters, it's what happens in the future. We invite you all to work hard and be optimistic about your future. Enjoy today's podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Inspires Belief Cast. Thank you once again for tuning in. And as always, thank you for believing in me. It means the world to me. It's because of you that this podcast has been so successful, and I appreciate you more than you know. I'd love to give a shout out to my sponsors, Maury Nutrition. They have a drink called Calm. It's the official drink of the Belief Cast now. Wasatch Recovery Treatment Center. Thread Wallets, and Siegfried and Jensen. Again, guys, thanks for supporting me and making this all possible. And really what makes this amazing is the guests that I have on my show. We have amazing people who have been through some amazing things and overcome some horrible things and now are doing great things. And today's going to be no different. Today, we are joined by Jake Bodine, the founder and CEO of God Behind Bars. Thank you, Jake, for being here.
Yeah, no, it's an honor. It's an honor to be a guest. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I how I got introduced to you, Jake. Someone sent me a link to this video of the song "Open Your Eyes of My Heart," and it showed a bunch of these inmates who are on death row. They're singing in prison, and they look like the happiest people in the world. And the feeling I got from watching that, I mean, it brought tears. I mean, I'm tearing up just thinking about it. And then the other thing is someone sent me Ty Bateman's story, he was the kid who tried to hang himself and he was gone, and someone luckily found him and he came back to life, and he was really mad that he lived. And then he got thrown back into prison, and there was a guy he met there named Trivy who was doing a prayer circle on forgiveness. Mm-hmm. And he said that prayer circle on forgiveness changed his life, like softened his heart. And so anyway, I mean, and that's just a couple things. I know you have many of those stories, but truly inspiring, and we get to talk to you today. So that's how I got introduced to you in the first place.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thanks for having me. And it's been an awesome ride. We've been doing this for about 16 years now.
Wow.
And what started as just a young punk kid in college who had two close friends that were struggled with a drug addiction. Yeah. And I really just wanted to figure out how I could resource them to change their life. God used to turn into an international ministry where we're impacting millions of people every single year. Guys just like Ty that are honestly, a lot of them kind of, I guess, caught up in a cycle, whether it be of addiction or just their socioeconomic class and circumstances that provides just normal people, really, at the end of the day, that have been dealt a bad hand, and not discrediting any kind of responsibility off of these guys and what they've done with their actions. But what we've found is it's people clinging on to hope that need a little bit of a boost and a second chance, someone to take a shot on them. And our heart is to introduce them to Jesus and connect them to the local church all across the world to ensure that they are successful upon their return into society. And so it's been amazing. Those videos that you were describing, those are the scenes that I get to see every single day, and our team does an amazing job of just capturing really the work that God is doing behind prison walls and being able to share that with the world. And so, it's real, it's raw, but the impact is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, you were said it's the most unchurched population in the U.S., and I know that's why you're doing this. But before we get into that, and there's so much I want to talk to you about, but I want to get to people to know you a little bit more, Jake. Tell us a little bit about your childhood and maybe where you grew up and a little bit about your family life.
Yeah, what's funny is I grew up in a middle-class home. My father is a pastor, has been a pastor my entire life, has led churches since I've been born.
Okay.
And I really didn't have any desire to go into ministry whatsoever. I've kind of always been entrepreneurial, even from the standpoint of where my dad, when we turned 16, it was kind of a requirement that we all get a job and start contributing to our different bills and things. And I talked him into, I'll just say this. I worked at a retail store for about 24 hours and realized that I was not cut out
Right.
to be an employee of a big corporation like that. And so I talked him into giving me $2,500 so I could start a detail rig. And I
Okay.
started detailing cars on the weekend ever since I
Wow.
was 16 years old. And then I played football. I was pretty decent at that. I moved down to Southern California and started attending a college out here and playing football at that college. And during that time, I was going to school for business. I really didn't have any desire to go into ministry. But I had shown up to a church that was local to the area. And the pastor of that church was interviewing at that time President Obama and Senator McCain on
Mhm.
their faith during the 2008 presidential election. And I went, it was called the Civil Forum. I went and attended that interview. And that's kind of where God really began to kind of stir in my heart that I wanted to have a bigger impact than just being financially successful.
Right.
And I didn't know what that was going to look like at that time, but I just knew that that he was calling me to be much more than business. And so over a couple of month journey, I began kind of really exploring how I could jump in different ministries and serve until one day, one of my closest friends from high school, his mom had called me and she had asked me, "Hey, Jake, is there anybody from the church that can go visit Ryan? He got locked up last night."
Oh,
And
wow.
I started calling around. And at that point in time, our local church, my dad's church, did not have a prison ministry. And I think it was a desire of theirs to do it, but they just really didn't know how to get started. And so as I began to kind of look for resources of what was out there and what was available, I found that they were pretty scarce. And so during that time, I felt like, hey, God is calling me to do something in this area. And I approached my father's church about being our first partner and taking a chance on me and on the vision that God had given me to serve this population of people. And they said
Wow.
yes. And on Christmas Eve 2009, we launched a full-blown church plant of their church inside of a prison campus. Big IMAX theater experience. Anything and everything that you would feel as you walked onto their local church campus, we tried to replicate inside the prison. And I didn't know if one person was going to show up or 300,
Right.
but
Yeah.
literally we started announcing it out to the facility. This is a women's prison. It's called Florence McClure Correctional Institution. And the doors, where I'm talking the yard, was just lined up with people to the point that we hit the capacity of the room. And right after
Wow.
the launch of the first service, we immediately had to go to two services to be able to reach those that wanted to attend the service. And so God kind of kicked it off with a bang. And then as word gotten out, different churches started calling. And at that point in time, I was just a one-man show. I was really just kind of giving advice. And then as our organization began developing, we really turned into kind of that premier prison ministry for the Capital C Church here in the United States and started launching these campuses all across the country. And right now, I believe that we just launched our 70th church plant
Wow.
behind prison walls, partnering with churches just like Central and other local churches to where we have the opportunity to connect these inmates to Jesus and the hope of Jesus, but really resource them with the local church. So they're building relationships with individuals before they ever get out. And sorry, are you still there?
Yep. Can you see me?
I'm so sorry. I had a technical glitch there for a second, but
Oh, you're good.
yeah, before they ever get out, that they have a church that they can call home. Our goal is to get their family members plugged in to that local church to really bridge the gap between prison and freedom. About 94% of all incarcerated individuals will be released back into the community one day.
Right.
And it's expected that 75% of them will return within the
Wow.
first 3 years of their release. And that's just due to the lack of resources really that they have in order to be successful. And so we've kind of built this holistic life transformational strategy, if you will, that allows them not only to begin a relationship with God, but really take care of a lot of the physical needs that they have as they re-enter society and ensure that they're successful upon their release and in their new beginning, ensuring that they stay out of prison for good. So,
wow, it's impressive, man. It really is. And, the impact you're having and how it's growing too. I want to step back a little bit and correct me if I'm wrong, but after you quit football, I think you actually got on your knees to pray and you challenged God because you were struggling.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
in that moment of my life where you feel purposeless. I'm watching
Yeah.
everybody around me do big things. What had been my purpose and my platform for a very long time, playing football, I was falling out of love with that. And I was just kind of in a season of drought, if you will, to where I just felt like, what is it that I'm supposed to do next with my life? And I want to have a bigger impact than all of this that I'm focused on right now. And it was in that season of seeking and praying, and like you said, challenging God to show up and telling him that no matter what he calls me to, that I'm available. It was kind of my Isaiah moment, if you will, to where I was saying, like, use me. I want to be called. Use me, but I need you to show me my steps. And so I just began challenging God, and it was probably a 2 to 4 week period of time to where I was wrestling with him. And I was reading a book. I forget the name of the book actually now, but there's this guy and he's standing in the forest and it's foggy, it's dark. He's walking with his horse and he can't see anything in front of him, and he's fearful. And he doesn't know the directions what he was supposed to head. And the horse begins to talk to him, and the horse asks him the question. He said, "Can you see your next step?" And the man looked back at the horse and he said, "Yes, I can." He goes, "Then take that one." And so I just began to basically see one little step in front of me at a time. And I began to take that one until God just began to blow open the doors and really reveal to me what he was calling my life to do and to be here on earth. So.
Wow. That's incredible. It's amazing when you humble yourself to that point where, you know what, God, what do you want me to do? It's that surrender piece. And I heard once that one of the best definition of surrender is to come over to the winning side.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Definitely. I definitely would like to be on and I know which side is the winning side. And so, and I've lived on both sides, to be honest with you, throughout my life. And so, knowing the emptiness that I've felt, in the seasons that I'm disconnected from his plan and ultimately his purposes, like I know the difference of being on the winning side. And so I would encourage anybody that's thinking of that right now or even floundering in their own life of, is God real? Is he for me? I would encourage you to lean into him. And in the moments of struggle, people really do two things. They either run for him or lean into him. And I know in my life, in those moments, the more that I lean in, the more that my pathway just becomes clear and less turmoil overall. So.
Right. I love that. And you're right. They either run or lean in. And I think, in my population, I work with a lot of people. I'm in a treatment center working with drug addicts and alcoholics, and they have mental health issues. And, I find a common theme a lot. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, where a lot of them have this, they're really, have a kind of a resentment towards God. They just think, man, look at my life. Look at what's happened. Is there really a God? And they start questioning those kind of things. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts, because I know if I'm not mistaken, you had a lot of friends, even in your school and stuff, who've overdosed of, from opiate addiction and things like that, and have died. And you're seeing all this going on. And a lot of times people go, man, where is God? And would God even help me? Love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I honestly, I want to affirm and recognize that there are things that people have gone through to where they can't fully understand. Like, if there was a good God, how could this be allowed to happen to me? And I don't know that we will ever get those answers on this side of heaven in a lot of different ways. But the one thing I do know is that no matter what you've been through, or what you may go through, that there is a God that loves you and that he wants to use whatever pain that has been experienced in your life for purpose. And so I know, just seeing through my own life, through people that I've had the opportunities to link arms with in ministry. There's one lady, her name is Heather Palacio. She has an amazing suicidal prevention ministry, and she has battled suicide and depression her entire life. And she's a believer. She loves God with her entire heart. Her husband is a pastor, and he's actually a board member of our organization. And she goes through seasons still to where she spirals into a full depression and doesn't fully understand why she battles this. But I think the greatest thing about Heather is that she has embraced her pain and used it for purpose, and understands that God gave her this burden for a reason, and it's to bring hope and light in this area of the world to other people who are struggling with the same issues. And so not always too are we freed from those issues, and she still battles it. However, she has never lost sight of why she goes through it, and it's to bring that hope and purpose through her pain to other people that are struggling with the same thing. So, and I believe that for all of us, that no matter what we go through, the challenges that we face, they're for a reason. And so we have the opportunity to be bitter about it, or be better with it and use it for good. And so, I think it comes down to a mindset more than anything, is understanding that because of sin, there's sickness in the world, and there's bad things that happen to good people. And we might not fully ever understand that, but embracing it and looking for the beauty in it of how we can use that pain for purpose.
Yeah, beautifully said, Jake. I love that. I'm a huge believer too that life happens for us. And again, we may not have all the answers. Why do we go through these difficult times? But, I had a mentor tell me this once, that, I was diagnosed with some mental health issues, and I was a drug addict for 10 years. And it was like, adversity is the wake up call to your greatness. And I was just like, what are you talking about? And I didn't really understand it in the beginning, but I understand it now. And, you think about, the adversity that you went through that led you to finally finding, like, you felt purposeless, and yet you wrestled with it, you figured it out, and now look what you're doing. And had you not gone through that, you wouldn't have maybe as much compassion. Not that you're not a compassionate man, but you wouldn't have as much maybe towards these inmates who are, locked up and society's kind of put aside and forgotten.
Well, and that's exactly right. They're like, even playing football, from the time I was a kid, I thought my dream was to go to the league, right? So I had put all my eggs in that basket. And when God was kind of calling me out of that, I was really struggling with that, because I had already seen this vision of me in the NFL, all of those types of things. And it was kind of like, okay, why do I waste my entire life focused on football? And now, in the seat that I have today, the different vantage point that I have of my life looking back, it was the relationships that I met with guys that I most likely probably would not have been friends with, just due to we were two different life paths, if it wasn't for the game of football. And so some of my closest friends, and looking at their socioeconomic status, I went to school with kids that drove a Ferrari to school, all the way to kids that didn't know where their next meal was coming from. And playing sports exposed me to a lot of those kids that didn't know where their next meal was coming from. And I got to see their family dynamics and the way that they thought and the way that their entire culture was, and understanding that they're really great people just facing some really tough circumstances. And so as I begin to learn that just about prison ministry in general, was looking at them through the lenses of no different than they are you or I, that have faced some really bad circumstances in their life. And I'd say the majority. And then, of course, there's a population that have done some pretty horrific things.
Sure.
And I got challenged with that too. In the very beginning of my ministry, there was a gentleman I was working with, and when I learned of his crime and what he did, I began to become disgusted with him. And as we, every time we'd go in and minister, and he would open his mouth, I would lose focus of what I was there to do. And I wrestled with God with that one too, because I was like, all right, God, I'll reach everybody but that population of people.
Right.
And it was a question like literally that I've heard only a few times as this happened to me in my life, where you almost hear God speak audibly to you in your mind. And he was like, are you saying that I'm not capable of changing him too?
Ooh.
And so I began to, from that point forward, never ask what someone has done. And the reason why I do that is because I don't want to allow my flesh and my personal limitations and view of those people come between God's view of them and what he is capable of doing. I don't ever want to be a roadblock for him. And so and just want to be that conduit to his message, to his hope, to his love, his mercy. Obviously, the consequences of their sin is his to bear. And so I all I do is point them to the cross and let them know that there's still a God that loves them in spite of anything and everything that they've done. So
great perspective. Thank you for sharing that. I know this is a big question, probably a hard question, but I mean, can you share a few of some of the most profound moments you've had with these inmates? I mean, I know that's a big question because you probably have them every single minute of the day, but is there a few that stand out to you where you're like, man, God is all powerful, God is real, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it's that undeserving mercy and love and being able to fully see that and the purpose of it. And I think the best image of this that I can describe is if you guys are familiar with the musical Les Mis, which was a very famous musical that came out a few years ago, and Hugh Jackman is the starring actor in that musical. And there's a moment to where Hugh Jackman gets out of prison and he's struggling to eat. He's homeless. He has nowhere to stay. And there's a clergyman and his wife who take Hugh Jackman in. They feed him dinner. And in the middle of the night, Hugh Jackman robs him of all of his silver and leaves the house. And the Roman guards, they find Hugh Jackman in the street, homeless, with all of this silver, and they know exactly where it came from. And so they drag him back to the clergyman's house, and they said, "Did this man steal from you?" And the clergyman looked him in the eye and he said, "You left too soon." And he starts running through his house and grabbing all the rest of his best silver. And he comes out and he gives it to Hugh Jackman and stuffs it in his bag. And it was that undeserving mercy and grace that man showed that literally caused Hugh Jackman's heart to change completely and become a different man. And so I see that all the time in prisons. People are like, why do you serve this population? I mean, they've done some pretty horrific things, and yes, they have. But our goal is that they would never do them again. And so it's the undeserving mercy and grace. It's the going above and beyond and giving them our best, even when people say that they already have just good enough. It's those types of moments where we have the opportunity to say, hey, we think of you this much. You are worth this much to us, that we see more often than not be the cause and the shift in someone's mind and heart to want to be different and to want to change and to have that same love, mercy, and grace towards others in their life. And it starts with themselves. I think a lot of them feel the guilt and the shame of things that they've done in their past. And so it starts with that having that love, that grace, that mercy, even for yourself, and be fully accepting that God loves you in spite of anything and everything that you've done. So
yeah, wow, that's awesome. Yeah, what a neat experience to have that over and over again and to see that. I think one of the other things you do too, Jake, is you not only introduce the inmates to Jesus and connect them with a local church, but you also help them reunite with some family members that maybe they've been estranged from for years. And I've seen a few of those videos too, and those are so heartwarming, man, to watch that. And how has that experience been, watching that connection get reunited again?
That was hard, just because the kids are involved, and the kids are just a victim in this entire circumstance and situation that their parent or loved one is facing. And so that one's really difficult as a dad of 5. Number one, I can't imagine not seeing my kids.
Yeah.
even for a few days, let alone a few years for a lot of these guys. But more than anything, like, we just know the importance of a dad's role in a child's life, and a mom's role in a child's life, and how we can ultimately bridge the gap that the enemy has wanted to use to destroy families, to restore families. And so, yeah, we do these different family reunification events across the country where we go in and we set up, for instance, around the Christmas holiday, we call it All Is Bright. It's like a winter wonderland
Yeah.
experience, to where we put on a dinner. We bring in Santa Claus. There's a shopping mall experience that allows for the parents to go through and pick out toys for their kids, and we wrap them, and the dad or mom gets to present them to that child that night with just the different gifts of Christmas. But more than anything, it's the time together, and it's rebuilding trust, rebuilding the relationship that the being incarcerated has severed. And so our heart is to really break that generational curse and cycle of incarceration. And it's by getting dad or mom involved in their child's life again, even before they ever are released from prison, especially from a man's perspective. I believe that when a father is absent from the home, that the individual is 90% more likely to become incarcerated in their life.
Wow.
And so we have a huge burden just to get dad involved back in their child's lives, and that he can become, number one, someone who's trusted, someone that they look up to again, but two, that he can become an influence in kind of shaping and changing the trajectory of what their most likely path is. And so, the events are amazing. If you're not a crier, I promise you will be.
Man, I was crying big time.
It truly is like a prodigal moment, but reversed, right? Like it isn't the son coming home to the dad's coming back home to the son, but it literally it breaks you. But you see the power of love, and you see what God can do even in the midst of destruction, and changing a lot of the different legacies and what these kids are facing at this point in time.
Wow. Yeah. You're not kidding, man. If you don't think you're a crier, watch one of those and you're going to tear up. I'm telling you, it's so powerful. And really everything you do. I mean, if I need a pick me up for a day, I just watch one of your little videos, dude, I'm telling you. And I've been sharing, I do a lot of speaking events, Jake, and that clip of Open Your Eyes to My Heart, Lord, and when they're singing, I'll play that just to start off my speaking event. And I'm like, do you guys feel what we're feeling right now? I mean, it like sets the tone right off the bat. I'm telling you, if any of those things can bring you up if you're feeling down.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and honestly, like if you aren't serving in some capacity, it doesn't have to be in prison ministry, but just in some capacity that is different than your normal everyday to day, like I will tell you that you are missing out on a major part of life. Because it brings everything in perspective.
It really does. Yeah.
It allows for us to seek understanding versus be understood. Often as humans, right, we're naturally selfish. We want everyone to understand our problems, our issues. But when we start serving and seeing other people's problems and issues, the perspective of ours become a lot smaller. And so I would say get involved in some form or fashion with a ministry or an outreach in your area where you have the opportunity to serve someone that may be facing different circumstances than you.
Yeah, definitely. I had a client once, Jake, in treatment. I was going around the group room. We were in a process, and I said, "Hey, share something that's on your heart." And this guy stands up, and I put it to my memory because I didn't want to forget this. And here's what he said. And he's quoting someone else, but he made it his own. He said, I tried to find myself I could not see. I tried to find my God eluded me. I tried to find my brother, I found all three. And I thought, man, there it is, dude. That is where it's at. And just like what you're saying, if you're not serving in some capacity, you truly are missing out. And I think that's where the magic is. I think that's where our hearts change. They soften. We look at the world differently. We can see it in a much better light when we do things like that. And that's like when I see someone like you who's out there doing this good, it's like, you know what, there is good in the world, and God does love us, and there is a lot of good that is being formed because of God,
Yeah, no, and I think that too, just even in the Western world, I'm actually writing a book on this topic right now, but
Oh, nice.
is that we've become so focused to our relationship with God, just being in rows at church on Sunday, and
Yeah.
what Jesus modeled was tables, right? That we're
Mm.
supposed to be doing it in circles and with people and in relationship, and kind of
Yeah.
flipping the script between religion and relationship. And Jesus modeled that at the Last Supper. He modeled it many times throughout the Gospels, where he sat and ate with the taxpayers and the sinners and
Yeah.
everyone that the Pharisees described, right? And so, like, I think serving as well as just being in relationship with people that are different than us, that are facing different circumstances than us, it's the gift that God has given each and every one of us to shape each other, and like you said, have a different view and perspective on life and people as a whole. And I especially in this country where there's so much division,
Right.
to where we want the other side to understand our side, and we try to do it through social media and whatever else. Like, it really comes down to relationship and doing it around tables and rubbing elbows with people, and hearing their perspective and seeking to understand their worldview versus just ours. So.
Yeah. Love it. So besides, you doing service and things like that, and, and what you're doing with God behind bars, what do you do, Jake, on a daily basis to kind of help you connect to God and to stay focused? Do you have like a morning routine that you follow, and could you share that with us?
Man, I don't. I'm actually terrible with following any sort of routine whatsoever. In fact, I'm one of those that I think that routine scares me a whole lot. So I like
Okay.
every day to be organic.
I
Uh,
love it.
it looks different in every capacity.
Yeah.
Obviously, me getting to go inside prisons and see God at work
Yeah.
is one way that I really stay connected. But it's being in relationship with people that are going to grow you. Not always being the smartest guy in the room. Surrounding yourself with people who have wisdom and have or might be older than you, seen more life than you,
Yeah.
that can help shape you. Obviously, it's church with your family. It's being in the Word of God and studying the Word of God. Last year, especially, that was huge for me. I probably spent 4 to 5 hours a day
Wow.
just studying God's Word. In fact, I even went as far as not trying to read the New Testament for a period of time and really understand Jesus from the Old Testament perspective.
Boy, that's a task.
And but it was so eye opening for me of the
Mm.
reason why he needed to come, and who he is, and how loving of a God that he is. And so I think for me, it's very organic. I don't think it has to look a certain way.
Sure.
I believe that, in fact, the more that you can experience God by just being out in his creation, be talking with him daily through prayer, to not only pray when you need him, but in every form, shape, and capacity, being able to talk with him just like he's a friend is really kind of opens your heart and mind to understanding him at a deeper level. But whatever it looks like for you, just remaining committed and in relationship and tuning back in to him, leaning on him in every circumstance is really, for me, what my relationship with God looks like. So.
Wow. Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just curious because a lot of times people say, I got to have a routine, but I love what you said. I like it to be more organic and let it kind of come to me. I think that's beautiful. And it works for you, obviously.
And I think there's seasons for the routine, right? Like,
Sure.
I don't, but I think sometimes that we can become so routine that our relationship with him just becomes a practice. It's a box that we check, and we ultimately lose sight of him being unconventional and him being someone that is in everything, not just the different boxes that we check on a daily basis. And so I think that the more that we open ourselves up to that, the more that he's going to expose and reveal about himself to us. So,
yeah. Just a couple more questions. I know you're on vacation, so thank you so much for doing this. But how is doing what you're doing now how does that make you a better dad, a better father?
Man, I'd say it challenges me. It challenges me to be the tip of the spear in everything, whether
Okay.
it be For my wife, I'll start there. That when I want her to love me more, I have to go first and love her more.
Mm,
Uh, it's when I want her to honor and serve me more that I have to go first and honor and serve her more. That I'm the tip of the spear. I go first in every area of my life. That God has created me to be the stronger vessel. And so even in the moments of her or my children's weakness, knowing that I need to stand firm and without hindrance of what God is calling us to do or to lead in that certain circumstance or situation. It's knowing that even though the burden is heavy, that it's an honor that God has placed it on my back,
yeah.
and that I stand in the gap for my entire family. I stand in the gap for my kids' futures. I stand in the gap for my wife's future. It's really being exposed to that the decisions that I make, the little decisions that I make, can change and impact the entire trajectory of their life, I think is what serving in this capacity has opened my eyes to. And the responsibility as a man to carry that and to embrace that it's not
Yeah.
something that is poor me, that it's an honor that God has blessed us men with that responsibility. So,
Dang, yeah. Well said, Jake. If I've got a question, one last question here for you. If there's someone listening to your voice right now, listening to our episode here, and they're struggling, they're in a dark place, they're not sure what to do with their life, they're lost, what would you tell that one person right now?
and I tell them to lean in, stop running. I think that especially us as men, like it's very hard for us to call out when we need help. Start surrounding yourself with people that you can trust and that you can ask for help, but lean into God. Set anything and everything that you're going through at the cross. Let Him carry the burden with you. I think often we hold all of our burdens really, really tightly, and we want to remain in control. And it's coming to full surrender. It's coming to saying, God, I know that you have this. I don't fully understand. I might not know the future. The outcome might not be my desire, but I'm going to walk in full trust and full surrender that you have this and that you have my best interest in mind. And so fully letting go and surrendering and trusting, I think is really what I would say to that person. And I say that through my own life and my own experiences of something that I faced just even last year. And it was when God told me to basically shut up and be still. Like I was trying to lead through this situation, and I never fully relinquished control. I was trying to control every outcome. And it was when I literally heard from the Spirit, shut up and be still and let me take the lead. And that's when everything in my life and in this particular situation began to shift and change, was relinquishing that control to God and just trusting that He had my best interest in mind.
Wow. Well, that's beautifully said, Jake. I love that. If someone wants to reach out to you, Jake, and get to know more about you and learn more about God Behind Bars, if they want to donate to your cause or whatever, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah. Well, one, I would encourage you to follow our social media accounts. They're just at God Behind Bars on all social media platforms. I think the videos that our team posts on those will inspire you. They will change you in beautiful ways, number one. But if you have an interest in getting involved, you can go to godbehindbars.com and you can see the different areas of the country that we have ministries set up. We'd love for people to come serve. Obviously, the more resources that we have, the more opportunity that we have to expand this mission and vision that God is doing inside of prisons. And so if you're capable of giving, of course, we would be more than honored and appreciative of different donations, but we would love for you to come experience the work that God is doing behind prison walls as well. And so I'd encourage you to find a local church in your area that has a God Behind Bars ministry or just even a prison ministry in general, and get plugged in and start serving this population.
I love it. Well, you have my word. I'm going to donate to your cause today. I've got the donate page already set up.
Well, thank you.
Because I love what you're doing, Jake, and I will do my best to stay involved. And anything we can do to help you, I want you to know I'm here for you as well. And I'm so grateful that if God allowed us to connect today. I mean, for you to be on here, seriously, it's like I feel like I hit the jackpot. I really mean that, and you really are an inspiration, and you're proof of, if you put your mind to it, you listen to the Spirit, you listen to God, you surrender, man, miracles happen, and you're out there making a difference in people who need it more than anyone.
Well, thank you, Todd. And I feel the same way about your ministry and just the people that you're serving. And
thank you.
I appreciate you, because I know the pain that many of those men and women are facing on a daily basis. And so, thank you for what you do as well.
Thank you so much. Well, Jake, thanks again for being here. And everyone, thanks for tuning in. I told you this was going to be a great episode. Please go check out God Behind Bars. You will not regret it. And he wasn't kidding. If you need to pick me up, just go watch one of their videos on their social media accounts, and it will blow your mind, and you will for sure follow them. But reach out to them, donate to their cause. They need help. It would be great to be a part of it. That's the best way to do it. And also find out how you can get involved in the local churches that are doing, that have one of those ministries in their church. So again, thanks for tuning in. I love you guys. Thanks for believing in me. Thanks to my sponsors. Once again, you guys are the best. And Jake, thanks for taking some time out of your vacation. Tell your wife thanks, and tell her I appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Everyone, till next time. I love you. Take care.